Welcome, everyone. Today we are talking about the undeniable economic power of Black American women. For centuries, we have been the quiet architects of American progress, building families, economies, and culture while carrying the double weight of racism and sexism. Now, the numbers prove it. Black women are not just keeping pace, we're reshaping education, business, and wealth in the United States. From survival to strategy, how do we do that? Our story starts long before the spreadsheets and startups. Enslaved women farmed, traded, and midwifed entire communities. During Reconstruction, Black women founded schools and mutual aid societies. Even when laws restricted property ownership or outlawed natural hair, we adapted, using strategy, not surrender. To secure family survival and collective advancement, the legacy of adaptation is the blueprint for our economic strength today. Now, when we look at the engine of transformation, education is the engine. Oops, sorry about that. Education is the engine of our transformation. Black women are now the most enrolled group in a higher education and earn master's degrees at a higher rate than any other demographic. This is not some 10-year-old copy. This is still happening with Black American women. In STEM, fields long gated by gender and race, our growth rate outpaces every other group of women. And I'm saying that as a cybersecurity professional. I pretty much learned on my own. I was able to get into the field of information technology, and probably less than 3 years into the field, I became a cybersecurity analyst. And a lot of it is self taught, but I do appreciate my coworkers and the people in my life that was able to help me to advance to that level. But I'm a Black woman who represents what it takes, how her ancestors fought for what they wanted, go for what we wanted, and was able to come out victorious. So I say in STEM, there are definitely a lot of Black women now, today, and before us that truly love the science field. We have always loved science. Black American women have always loved science. No matter what the media pushes out, no matter who likes to bring negative connotations, we have Black women like myself who are science and solution oriented focused. This isn't just schooling, it's deliberate economic strategy. That's how I've always seen it. Getting into the field of education, learning as much I can so that I can then become a boss in my own field. I can then build and start my own technology companies if I wanted to and compete here in America or worldwide. Now, let's look more into STEM and innovation. Despite systemic exclusion, Black women are advancing in computer science, biotech, cybersecurity, and data analytics. We're not just filling seats, we're filling patents, launching startups, and leading research that powers the global economy. And I'll say that even myself, because of my skills, because of learning so much, I was able to easily structure what we call minimum viable products because I've already had some experience with software engineering or just developing. And again, all self taught, learning on my own, understanding how to research properly, how to focus on my craft. And today, because of our AI tools in the information technology community, has advanced, I was able to quickly create MVPs that should have a patent. So I am definitely working on a patent for a healthcare platform that I have built. And I have several other platforms, but again, I am just another Black woman who is representing what Black women are highly capable of and have always been capable of. Now, let's talk about building wealth in homes and enterprises. Let's just see where we are. Single Black women are now the largest group of solo home buyers in the United States. More than half of new Black owned businesses are launched by women, many in high growth sectors like health services, technology, and professional consulting. These are not side hustles, they're wealth building machines creating jobs and anchoring neighborhoods. Now, with this information, we know that unfortunately 300,000 Black women in the federal government, because I like to be specific, have either left or have been laid off. Some people may not know that Black women have been already, I would say, since COVID. I've been traveling way before COVID. I've been probably like 2008, 2009 when I got my first passport. So it was a thing amongst probably my group of peers and other Black women at that time. So now that we see some people getting into more travel or anything like that, I want to say it's kind of the influence of Black women like myself in that 2008, 2009 era. But I say that because we don't have enough Black women in executive or management positions. We deal with some negative connotations to how we manage people. There's people from all over different walks of life who have really bad management skills. However, we have people who want to push the narrative that it's Black women only, or hey, I prefer white men. And that's fine. I think I've worked under a lot of different leadership levels or types, and some were great. Some pushed me to the next level. I learned from them. When I look for a leader, I look to learn from them, like a sensei, a master teacher. When I look to get hired, I'm not looking to get hired by a company who doesn't even care about me, who doesn't want to invest in me. So that's one thing that I did as I grew my career in the information technology field. But my mindset was always to learn the skills so that I can start my own company. And that's kind of what you see with Black women. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, I'm a representative of a Black woman who thinks like that. Hey, I'm going to go learn all these skills, learn how HR is run, a legal department is run, an IT department is done, a marketing department. You can learn all these things while working on the job that a business owner who never worked a job or wants to promote, I don't work, or hey, I make so much money doing XYZ. That's totally fine, right? That's totally fine. No one's against you. However, learning while you earn to me is very important. Getting a job, if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, go work in the field that you're probably looking to be an entrepreneur in. Why? Because you're going to see successful businesses that have been running for decades that you work for. They're able to hire people at different salary ranges. So you need to understand that I don't want to just bring in minimum wage people. I want to bring in people that I can pay 60, 70, 80, 90, 100K plus a year because they're very skilled in their area and they're going to scale up my business. So that's how I think and how some Black women like myself think. So when we're talking about wealth building and homes and enterprise, single Black women like myself, it's not that we don't want relationships with men in our community or just men in general. I think the problem is that people don't want to recognize the advancement and the progress of Black American women since the inception of this country. We've always been working. Yeah, by myself, I've been working since I was a young girl. My family had a business. I was able to see my parents. They weren't the best at every little thing, but I have seen them hire people, fire people. When we went out early in the morning or the weekends, passing out flyers on businesses, we did all that, and that's credit to my mom and dad who instilled that in me. So today I still have that entrepreneurial spirit. Now, every parent won't instill that into their kids, right? But Black women understand that we have to compete. We have to get into the global economic marketplace, even if our counterparts aren't on the same page. Now, some people may have a negative thought about that, but I'm going to continue to move in intelligence. So those conversations, that thought process, is just not allowed in this particular space because I like to talk with people who can have intelligent adult conversations. Like we don't need to make here's a warning or a but or anything like that. We just know what it is and we try to think critically on those things. So I say, Black women do have side hustles, and it's good to see that we are now looking at expanding into entrepreneurship because we should. America should allow not just, and I'm not just saying Black women, I'm just speaking because this is particularly for Black women, what I'm speaking on right now. But all women and men in this country should have the ability of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that, when we look at the job cut in the federal government, me as a business person and have experienced seeing people get laid off and all that, I have to look at these things from both a business side and a moral side, right? But the business side, because of my growth and learning on the job, I can see it and understand, why people would be laid off, right? However, in this situation, I know it's particularly Black women, but we have been hearing reports as well that other people have been experiencing job loss, and it has been going on for everybody, right? It was just significant that the government cut 300,000 jobs from Black women. Either they left, got fired, but I'm just going to put it out there. I'm someone who you could say left my job. And why would I do something like that, right? Well, in my field, and I can't speak on anyone else's field, when you are going for your craft, whether you went to get a degree or you're learning on your own or whatever, but it's a craft. You have to look at it from an ancient perspective. Back in the day, whether you were a seamstress, a welder, blacksmith, any of those things, you were the person people went to because you perfected your craft. You became so good at building, at making swords and stuff like that, right? You thinking just like that. So if you stay focused on your craft and your skills are really good, you don't really worry about jobs, right? Not saying you're not worried. Don't get me wrong, but you're not worried in a way to say, yo, I have no skill. I have to learn something new or blah, blah, blah. When you're into the field, you can think ahead. Like me, I've always thought ahead. Cybersecurity, when I first joined information technology, it wasn't really that big yet. But because I also understood growth, the economy, job projections, future projections, things like that. That's what allowed me to see that cybersecurity was going to be a field that was going to grow. And not only that, I knew blockchain and I knew AI was going to grow, even though I wasn't yet to the point of knowledge that I am at now. So when I see building wealth, homes, and enterprise, and you see solo Black women like myself buying homes and affording our cars and stuff, that tells you something. It tells you something. Someone can have a bad negative connotation to it. That's totally fine if they want, but America rewards successful people. It rewards people in business. So I think the next level you'll see in the next 10 to 20 to whatever decades, Black women will finally totally understand how to scale finances, how to grow corporations. That's the level we need to start thinking on because when we experience job loss, we should never have to experience this anymore. It should always be a job available for Black American women in their community, just like white people, just like Hispanics, in Hindus, any other community. I like the fact that they still have work available for people if they want that work. But America is a general place to where we can get work anywhere at any job. But if it was an issue where unfortunately we're experiencing people losing jobs and certain stuff, you have people that are available. And networking is great as well. So I see that because of the growth in our education and business, it will give us the wealth building that we need. Because when we look at the wealth gap, Black women have to understand what's at stake. We can't be um, lowering our value, our educational value, our entrepreneurial value. We cannot be lowering that at all. Do not sacrifice it. Do not lower it. Stay focused. Stay the course, day by day, brick by brick. That's literally how I promote stuff, how I talk to people to get on the ball and do their thing. So this was pretty cool to know. So let's go to the next slide here. Now, when we look at this slide, we see the capital of in-group investors. Now, when I think of why Black women aren't as successful financially as they should be, as we should be, this comes because of the lack of investment into our businesses, right? So here's the kicker. Less than 1% of US venture capital reaches Black women founders, and yet we scale companies anyway, using personal savings, cooperative lending, and sheer creativity. That's literally how Black women were able to keep up and keep sustainable. But when we don't have investors in our own community, meaning we shouldn't have to depend on other communities to invest, but in the again the general American way, yes, any American should be ready to invest into any other American, right? That is economic independence in action. Okay, nation building without a safety net of male-dominated capital networks. Again, this is not to say. Again, I don't really like to have these unintelligent sentences or conversations, but this is not to say women don't need males. I don't really think of it like that. I think of it as we're a company, we're a team, we're Americans, we are doing this together. You know what I'm saying? Like, but because it's been male dominated for so long, right? If we're thinking of facts by males, you know, um, it's important to note how Black women have use personal savings, and we don't even have a lot. So that means Black women who are entrepreneurs, we need to really think about how to get funding, how to change or scale ourselves up to go get that funding, go get that money, baby, go get it, because we have just as great ideas and everything. That's usually when we build them is to serve all Americans, not just ourselves. So let's go ahead to the next slide. Now, let's talk about some things that may have affected us, or again, when we're talking about negative connotations online, affecting Black women or offline, or things that have been affecting us for a very long time. Let's talk hair, for example. From the 18th century, the Tingdom laws to 20th century corporate codes, Black hair has been legislated against, right? The Crown Act of 2022 provides discrimination is still real. Why would an American country want to tell Black women they can't wear their hair in a certain way? But we have people who want to focus on hurting people's self esteem when they're progressing, when they have to assimilate. See, that's the other thing, Black women. Myself, I feel like I'm a chameleon. I become a chameleon, right? A learner, someone who's going to do what I need to do at that time. Now, I don't try to move with no integrity, no respect. That's not how I try to move. In fact, I don't really think to move. That's not my first thought of how can I be disrespectful or whatever. That's just really not how I think, right? Um, so when I think about that, and when people are, negatively talking about Black women, it makes me feel some type of way, right? It makes me feel like, dang, no matter the progress of the Black women who are doing what they're supposed to do according to what our American society standards are, right? Global standards are. Unfortunately, we've been dealing with stuff like this. This is 2019. This is pre-COVID, people. This is pre-COVID. Like, how does that even, you know, get to that point, right? And in America, but we're in 2025 now, so we shouldn't even be thinking about this stuff, right? Now, when we talking about weaves and wigs and all that stuff, people are going to have issues with it when it comes to Black women in particular, right? You have people in our own community that have an issue with it, and you have people outside the community that have an issue with it. But you have people who are outside the community and work in corporate worlds and all that. They don't have an issue with that. They don't have an issue. The reason why some people brought up an issue is because they have envy, underlying issues that they obviously need to go to therapy for, or just again trying to attack your self-esteem because the progress, the things that you're doing, and I hope you see that with this presentation, the things that the Black women who are doing what they're supposed to do are doing still gets a negative connotation. Your education has been hit, the way you dress has been hit, even though you may not dress like what we would deem the lower class of Blacks, or some people would say these people are ghetto or ghetto minded because, they think it's okay and I don't care and I do what I want, freedom of speech, freedom of dress, like that's fine, right? But when we're looking at how our community operates, it seems they never find a Black woman or Black women who are doing positive and professional, right? Even Oprah, Oprah and Gail, okay? Because some people are emotional, right? It's the emotional side of it that they attacked Oprah, who's a billionaire, you know? Like it should be insane. No Black woman should be attacking a Black woman, especially like Oprah, and they have no technical evidence. They have no evidence of anything they're saying. It's just gossip. It's just gossip and emotional rhetoric. Why? Because if you look at it, Black women, you're being attacked, right? So when anyone mocks wigs or weaves, they're erasing the fact that these were strategic, tools of survival in a biased economy, not evidence of frivolous spending. So Black women said, hey, we have to adapt so that we can take care of ourselves, because at those times we understood that our counterparts were dealing with the same stuff we're dealing, job loss or discrimination and all that stuff. We understood what was going on. We still understand that. But I think it's a great new time and a new day for Black women to stop letting people take hits at your self esteem and start comparing yourself with other women in what I would say that are valuable places that matter in the global economy or just the economy in America, and society, right? Everything else is subjective. Everything else is literally emotional rhetoric. People are just emotional and really need to go to therapy. I'm a big proponent of that. I love going to therapy and talking it out with someone. Like, I'm not even going to lie about it. I don't like to talk to my parents all the time, or a friend or two about. I don't like to talk to them about all what I'm going through because they're not a professional. I don't want them listening to me and thinking they got the solutions, because I'm just going to say, I'm going to speak for myself. They don't have solutions for me. I have my own solutions within myself because of my understanding. And then I go to people who are professionals that I lean on for that, right? So that's how I kind of operate in this day and age. Back then, it was different. Back then, people would tell you, oh, go talk to your best friend, or husbands or boyfriends just dumping it on their women, or women don't have no one to talk to, or they're talking to their girlfriends or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But in this day, we can take therapy seriously because, in my opinion, Black people, Black Americans, do not champion therapy because of PTSD. Because of PTSD. You see what I'm saying? These are things that affect you, your self esteem, your self confidence. And Black women, we stay, a lot of us try to stay as confident as possible. Yeah, we do have mean girls in our community. We do have women who are so in loser zone, loser world, that they just attack you. And again, therapy is something they need to do. They just need to go about it. But I don't want you guys to ever feel wrong. I don't wear a lot of wigs. I don't get a lot of braids. I've been wearing my natural hair for probably a little bit over a decade now. I used to have locks. My hair grew pretty long. Now I shave it off, and I'm just keeping a low cut and probably going to grow it out again and try something different. But I don't ever think of other black women because they wear wigs and weaves as something just horrible. Like, I don't see that as, oh, they have this character, certain type of character assigned to them because they do that. It's just nonsense, emotional rhetoric, and people just wanting to lie because they're hurt and they have nothing to show for it. So hopefully they get over it and get some therapy and talk about it, right? Now, let's talk about the myths, distractions, and the sexual marketplace because I know some black women have heard of this. I would say specifically during the COVID era, right? Even though I'm aware of things way before COVID, but during the COVID era, excuse me, you have some people, unfortunately, in our community promoting this sexual marketplace. Now, why would someone promote that when society, sex can be a beautiful, erotic, and lovely thing, right? But why would someone want to promote that in our community? Why would this be the top of the market, the top value, right? What does this have to do with families? What does this have to do with the wealth gap? What does this have to do with any of that, right? With real progress, right? What progress does this give because you had sex with somebody? Absolutely nothing, right? This is why black women, when you go get educated, stop downing and demeaning yourself by letting people who are dysfunctional, aren't complex thinkers, upset about something, and blabber anything out their mouths and think it's law. Like, you got to stop talking to them. I don't talk to people. I don't like talking. Like, it's like, why am I even talking to you? I don't care if they even feel like they got something to say. I'm telling you, it's nothing that you haven't heard for the millionth time, right? So now we have to keep moving forward. We got to get past certain people in our community that want to, focus on negative stuff. So while black women climb educational and economic ladders, and I'm going to repeat that again, while we climb educational and economic ladders, a loud minority fixates on sexual value, trying to reduce women to dating statistics. Now, again, black women have been working since the inception of this country. So why would our counterparts and other racist people or envious and jealous people, why would they even make them belittle themselves for a marketplace that doesn't have value? You know what this to me says? It says human trafficking ring. It gives human trafficking, it gives prostitution. That's what that gives. Black women are fucking sexy. Okay? Like, what are you talking about? We have different types of black women are sexy in their own fucking way. Who gives a fuck about this shit right here? Why are you comparing us to porn and all that stuff? Like, who gives a motherfucker about a sexual marketplace, right? It's about educational achievement. The Hispanic community, the white community, the Asian community. You know what they be promoting? This right here. This is what they be doing. This. You know why politics is down in our community? Because they're not thinking about this. You got one side of the brain doing this. You got one half of your brain working, right? This. That's what other communities are focused on. This because you know why? It gives them political power. It gives them the power to gain more assets so they can stop that gap that that was created due to policies that affected the Black American community in particular. So these are the things that matter, Black women. When people bring all this other extra stuff in here, you gotta be like, yo, let's start comparing you to the men of the world so we can show you that men, though some men may be interested in this, they still got this going on, they got that going on, and they got that going on. So why would I even listen to people specifically trying to put this as they're trying to put this over all of this? Like, what kind of sense are you even talking about? So while we climb the economic ladders and people want to focus on reducing black women to dating statistics, this is about black women, but of course this can be affected to different women, and even certain men who get looked at as feminine and all that. But I'm just saying, like it's riffraff. It's just so, I really try not to focus on those things. Why? Because I've done things in my life where I'm like so proud of myself. So this doesn't matter. There's people who don't like me. There's people who made up stuff and gossiped about me. But at the end of the day, this is what I be on. That's what I be on. So it matters nothing to me, right? I'm not a angry person as people want to perceive me. I have bitch face sometimes. I ain't gonna lie, but sometimes I be in my mind thinking of innovation. You know. But anyway, let's go to um, the next slide here. So when we talk about global benchmarks, right, measured against other women worldwide, Black women match or exceed peers in college attainment, business creation, and civic influence, despite starting from deeper systemic disadvantages. This isn't just catching up, it's outperforming expectations by history. So, Black women, Black women, listen to me. Listen, you need to only compare yourself and compete. Now, looks, you can compete and this is socially, right, in certain social settings, not all of them, in certain ones you can compete with femininity, how you look. And if you compete with other women, I personally don't think of competing with another woman. Like in my mind, it's just not going to happen. It's against my nature as a woman. Like it really is. Like I don't see that. But when it comes to job growth, maybe I got a tech company and another Black woman has a tech company, and we're competing, right? We want to be the Walmart and Target, right? That's good competition right there. Is what I'm saying? We can be the Facebook and not Instagram, but it'd be a lot of companies and people suing each other. Like that's good competition, where we got laws and we can't be giving out secrets and NDAs and all that stuff. Again, a lot of this stuff you can learn in the corporate world to operate and scale. But Black women, yeah, we got to start focusing on comparing ourselves to only women. When any of our counterparts want to start comparing about sexual marketplace value and all that stuff, again, stop belittling yourselves and your education and dumbing yourself down, because a lot of you dumb yourself down to compromise with people who can't lift themselves up, who can't advance their thinking, who don't want to advance their thinking because they want you to accept that they can't think like you. So they just attack, right? But we got to look at what's really real, right? Why we really are champions here. Now, I'm not cutting down white women, Latino women, or Asian women, because they also have their own issues that affects them as women, right? But we have our own as well, right? And this is why we need to focus on what truly matters to our economy here in America, right? And how we are affecting other economies. Because when we build a business, I don't really think of it as, I think of it as America. I want to build it here for Americans, but I'm definitely open to go to other countries or cities or townships or whatever and help influence or provide solutions for women of other cultures, because I'm not a hater. I'm not envious. I'm like, yo, if this works for us, this may help y'all. And I hope the same thing, right? Which should work that way if we're working together, right? But I want y'all to stop belittling and downing yourselves and letting dysfunctional people, low class people who didn't go to school, who don't see education as something to obtain, even if they graduated high school, they said, hey, I'm no longer going to read a book. They're making up all this negative stuff about education. And I just told you, they want to come up with all these random degrees. Start asking them, what kind of, a bachelor of science, what type of um, courses or curriculums or different things that you become under a bachelor of science? What type of studies, field of studies, can you study under a bachelor? And just let them answer that. Since they know so much about college and economics, right? Since they know so much about loans, student loans, and all that, right? And if they did, Black women, if they did know that, and I'm gonna just go back to this one, we would have more of this from our counterparts. We wouldn't be looking like this. This should be looking like this, maybe like that, right? So stop belittling yourself. Stop doing that. Like keep it 100 and keep it to what matters, what we can do to progress our country and move it forward. You know what I'm saying? Like think of those things. Like I don't even be thinking of things that don't even matter to me. If you're focused on your craft, you're a professional woman. You went to school, or maybe you didn't go to school and you still pursued something of higher interest and purpose. Focus on those things. Your craft is very important. Motherhood and all that stuff has changed. It's changed. We progressed as humans. It's nothing wrong with you wanting to be a mother if you don't want to be a mother. Like, who gives a motherfucker, right? I don't give a fuck about none of that shit, right? Families and all that stuff have been here since the inception of us as humans. So, political parties, any of that really has nothing to do with the family. If you want a family, you'll end up with somebody who also wants a family with you. Outside of that, do not allow dysfunctional people to try to, belittle you or demean you, and they can't even compare. We're going to compare ourselves to other women, especially in America, so that we can do our thing and work with them, right? That's what we're going to do. We're not going to be focused on things that don't matter to our progress, to our economic wealth gap, right? So, measured against other women worldwide, Black women match or exceed peers in college attainment, business creation, and civic influence, despite starting from deeper systemic disadvantages. Again, Black women, since the inception of this country, you've been working. There hasn't been a day where we ain't worked, right? People can bring up welfare, they can bring up Section 8, they can bring up all they want to, but I guarantee there's still a whole lot of us that are out there fucking working, right? So we just gotta stop with the emotional stuff. People really need to go to therapy. This isn't about catching up, right? It's outperforming expectations set by history. So the expectation was you were to stay in essential jobs or jobs that weren't really high salaried or anything like that, but you passed those. We got Black women who are, our ancestors and stuff. Like they've done a lot of stuff in science and roaming the world and doing all that stuff. So we have the representation so you can see yourself as someone and not see through them like counterparts like to do, not to see yourself as that person. I know Black women can look at or listen to a Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion and all that, and they can still stay focused on their thing. Just like I know men who can listen to heavy metal and stuff, and you're just like, oh, that shit is crazy, but they're still doing their jobs, focused on their craft. So don't let that negative stuff affect you when it doesn't have to. If you like certain music or a certain thing, that doesn't mean that you walking out there being like them, right? That's probably someone younger or someone who is an adult and just never got her shit together, right? She's still living in high school, right? And we have those type of Black women, but this is for the Black women who are looking to continue to exceed, right? Now, let's go to the community reality check. Other ethnic groups maintain strong male-led capital cycles, financing clinics, schools, and venture funds. Now, again, this is, to say Black women have always been involved in their community. Always. Now, but if we talking about comparing and contrasting, we can find that we don't have clinics aplenty. We don't. Let's be real. Schools are either getting their names changed, poor performance, and I mean African American schools, poor performance, right? Mothers and fathers don't want to be involved in their kids' life, in their school. They're too tired. Their mentality is still ghetto when they don't gotta be, but it's still like that, right? They don't have to do that. But because other male led capital cycles, when we look at the Hispanic community, you know, um, and their growth over the decades, you can see that because of their men went out and did the work, you see how their restaurants and shops and clinics and all of the things and the assets which makes sense, right, to the global and American economy, right? So when these are being male led, we have to look at our community and be like, why isn't this capital coming from our men? They're saying they're working, they're saying we don't see that, right? This is not to bash, this is just to bring the facts. This is just to bring the integrity to us, to see why we have to continue building community relationships, building for ourselves despite what's going on. So we can build a clinic. We don't cut off clinics because it's black owned, because you don't want to deal with other people. No, these are open, right? It's just the fact that we have an asset now, an asset, right? Which closes that wealth gap. Now, Black women, by contrast, have advanced largely without comparable in group male investment. Our economic rise is self propelled and sustainable. That's not a knock, this is a fact. Okay? So, again, if we're doing all of this and we don't have a lot of this, what can all I'm saying, it's not hard to prove these things. It's not hard to show, everybody, just because people into some women are into love and hip hop doesn't mean we ain't doing what we need to do. It doesn't mean we're not involved in our communities, working jobs and doing what we need to do, right? Just a perception of people who need to go and speak to a therapist, right? So here's some things I want to say that can hopefully empower more Black women economically, because there's a wealth gap we need to close, ladies. We need to close that with policies, right? We need to change the narratives on what's going out there. We need to be more protective of our image. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not looking to work with all Black women. I'm a realist. I'm real. I don't expect and I'm not looking to work with all Black women. I'm not looking for their ideas, for their input, any of that. I'm looking to work with and continue to progress with Black women who understand what's at stake and what's going on when it matters to the real world, right? So, where do we go next? Own the narrative with hard data, meaning if you are in statistics or anything, or you pursue that, or if you can get your daughters to start pursuing something like that, it helps the census, Pew Research, and NSF to counter these false narratives about Black women. And it's not hard. If you are in college, that's what I'm saying, Black, stop demeaning and downgrading your education that you went out to understand how to critically think, how to move for people who are dysfunctional. Quit thinking you need to save people. If they can't match your level or get their ass up to get on your level, stop talking to them. Like, stop. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time knowing that we have a wealth gap issue, right? Invest and circulate capital among Black women led enterprises. Now, this is not to cut out our counterparts. It's not. But, I think of it as a Black woman led economy, you know. And I researched, way back in Africa, because I'm an African American. I have African heritage, right? My family came through the transatlantic slave trade, right? And yes, I have other mixtures in my blood, in my DNA, but I'm going to always claim African American. That's what it is. Maybe Afro American, right? But that's what I'm going to claim. Okay. I'm not going to change it. I'm not in denial. But when I look at history, and just focusing on the Black woman, right? I don't want to, our counterparts have a lot of focus and they still have, they have some good stuff out, but we need to focus on the Black woman so we can understand through our lines and lineage how are we able to stay afoot for so long in those kingdoms. Those kingdoms were around for a long time. They're so old. They're way older than America. America ain't even a quarter, right? They're not even there on the compared, excuse me, to the kingdoms that was already here, and some of them being led by women, Black women, right? So when I look at that information, I'm like, oh wow, things seem to have lasted a long time, even when Black women was in power and ran things. So we have to see that as we have great leadership. We have great leadership when we talk about economic empowerment. We have that. We just got to figure it out in this day and age with this system, right? So leverage policy from the Crown Act to small business grants to protect gains and mentor the next generation so they start ahead, not from scratch. So again, we have a lot of daughters. We got Black women who don't like their daughters. We got Black women who got issues with their daughters. That needs to stop. We need to hold each other responsible for how our daughters are going into the world, right? We have a lot of daughters who don't know how to change their tampons, who don't know how to clean themselves properly, who just throws on makeup because they think their first thought is to get a man. You know what I'm saying? Our community promotes getting a man more than what is really what it's about. Now, other communities, and look, again, this is not to say I don't care about family, but I'm just being a realist. I'm being real with our position right now, right? I'm being real. When men are ready to come and marry up our professional and educated women, they'll come, or you're going to go find them, right? But outside of that, I'm being a realist. So, leveraging policy from the Crown Act to small business grants to protect gains. We gotta get politically involved, ladies. We gotta be better. We gotta get way better. We gotta learn that law. We gotta learn them loopholes. We gotta be so goddamn involved that the policy that affected that blew up this wealth gap, we got to see how to change those things, right? Our world is that we are American women, so we know what we do is going to affect American citizens more so than anyone else, right? So that's our thought process. That should be our thought process if we're going to do stuff like this and mentor the next generation. Again, you know, we need to make sure that our young ladies are going through maybe a tradition of womanhood. Maybe that's debutante balls, making sure that at a certain age, our young girls will go through this process. I don't care what hood or whatever you're from, all of our girls go through this process. It's just a new day, right? And that can help them propel them forward. That really can. Now, to the girls that want to act up and all that, some have mental health issues, people. Some Black women got some mental health issues. Like, it's crazy. And some of y'all know this shit. Some of our Black women are be off the rocker, saying all kind of stuff, doing all kind of stuff, being nasty, being mean, attacking people, you know? And again, if you are someone who is intelligent enough to be in this conversation and be a realist about how we operate, then this is not the channel for you. This is not the conversation for you, right? But I'm just speaking to the Black women out here who say, yo, we can still instill good values into our young ladies. Now, I'm not a Christian. I don't want to I personally don't believe in forcing religious beliefs on anyone, right? It should just be about structure in the first place, right? If we had good structure, hey, you got to go to school, you got to get your education, and you got to graduate. Are you looking into entrepreneurship, an apprenticeship? How many Black women have a job or a company they're running that we can send our young girls to get apprenticeships, right? That's how we got to start thinking to scale up and continue to progress forward. Now, the future is already here, ladies. It's already here, right? We've never waited for permission. That's just what it is. Black women, when we had a thought in our mind, and how we see it. We went for it. We didn't allow men to stop us, right? We found a way around that door. That's how I operate. I just move around that door. I don't let nobody stop me. If you're spiritual or you believe in something, a God or whatever, understand when you have that, there's no way that you can't feel good about pursuing stuff. And black women, we have shown that. This is why our progress is the way it is, because regardless of permission, we said we're still going to go hard. Some people are in denial about it. They don't like it because they don't have, the mentality like that, or they're just, again, losers. So they don't see that as motivation, as, man, you know what? This lady came from nothing, or this single mother came from nothing, and look what she did. Look how she overcame that. Those should be success stories. We should be promoting those stories amongst black women. When they're trying to tear down single mothers and black women with education and all that stuff, we got to start promoting the sisters who are doing it, because sometimes you just need to see it. Now that social media and stuff is here, some of our younger ladies, they just need to see, like, yeah, you can turn up at a club, girl, you can shake your booty, but when it's time to go to work, we go to work. We don't play no games about work. We don't play no games about none of that, right? That's how we got to see ourselves in the future, okay? From coded braids to cybersecurity code, we've turned survival into strategy and strategy into power. The data is clear. Black women are not just participants in the economy. We are architect, of its next chapter. And that right there is the real story. Okay. So this presentation is for black women out there who are like me, and I'm like them. But it's for us to understand. There's nothing. Like me, I don't be feeling no type of way when people be saying all kind of stuff. I like to be, how I think, how I move. It's really be all up in here. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't tell me something. You can't tell me the sky is purple and I know it's blue. Like I'm gonna think something's wrong with you, and you need to go talk to someone. You need to go to the hospital. Someone needs to come get you because ain't no way, right? I'm not saying I'm always right, but I really try to use critical thought, critical thinking for the things I do. But I'm just saying, black women, we need to stop feeling that you are down, letting people take shots at your self-esteem. Because I know some sisters out there, we love, we're gonna snap back, we're gonna snap dragon back, right? Because we can, and we should be able to, because you accomplish some things that you can say, yo, I can talk with the best of the men out here who think because they're a man, like that doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. What does it mean to this economy though? What is that progressing Americans with though? I be seeing silly conversations and unintelligent conversations. And it seems like our community just don't know what to do, don't know how to move forward. And I'm just like observing. Has anyone got anything? So, I'm going to step up more just to give my thoughts, my, study, whatever I have. I'm just going to push that forward to make sure that we as black women understand what it is. Now, if you want to get a copy of this presentation, I will try to make this available. And all my presentations I'll try to make available so that you can have something to take with you or physically hold or digitally hold for yourself. But I'll make this available for you guys out there. But thank you guys for watching my channel. I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will be talking to you soon. Thank you.